So we're live there.
Live now?
Yeah, we're live now. So I'm gonna go up because I think I speak as soon as she's done.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
To request that medical care be transferred to a medium security facility, following full medical review at an outside facility. And the same letter requests to support for release on parole. Coleman is currently on over 25th day of general lockdown. So in other words, he's been locked down for over 25 days, which cuts off all communication for all inmates with outside folks, as well as him being incarcerated in places where it's inhumane. And so it's expected to last throughout this entire week. And prisoners are not only out of their cell for only 1 hour a day, but are living on substandard food. Leonard is diabetic and unable to control his blood sugar levels due to the lack of proper dietary needs. So we ask that you please write Leonard at Coleman and tell him that we haven't forgotten him. They only allow white paper with white envelopes only. But right now, because of his current state and really just the mental health state, we could really use some help with people reaching out to him and letting him know that we're still fighting. We're still fighting and continuing his legacy of resistance against U.S. imperialism and colonialism. We're still trying to be here for him and all political prisoners, because we know that the only reason that our people are still incarcerated is because they are fighting for what's right. They are fighting for our rights, and obviously, like colonialism, the government, different entities don't want us to do that. And so, if you are interested in writing those letters, please find me after the speech, and I can give you the different addresses for the letters, because there's just a lot. So, Akahat, thank you. I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming to this event. Happy 4th of July. Awesome. Thank you, Hope. And I forgot to say thank you to the Nozomi girls. We should give them another round of applause, because they're really awesome. There's like a really short course, so if you're wondering why I'm trying to reach you guys, that's the reason. So, I just wanted to say a little something. I wanted to share a little story that I was talking to my friend yesterday in Chicago, and we were just chit-chatting. This is a good old friend of mine, and it really warmed my heart to hear that they were working on some gentrification issues in Chicago, in the old neighborhood that I used to live in, and it was just wonderful to hear that, they're still holding it down over there. There's many groups in Chicago still holding it down, and they were telling me about this indigenous youth group that's traveling through the Southwest. And I said, oh man, I really wish that they could make it here tomorrow, because we have this great event going on. And they asked, what? What's the event? And I said, it's 4th of July. And they're like, that's awesome. Because here in Chicago, we're going to be celebrating 4th of July. And so it's just really great, just like Ajama was saying earlier today, we don't even need to explain. When we were handing out flyers to people, I was like, we're just having the 4th of July. And people knew. Everybody knows that this is a lie. And so it's really great that people are coming together and we're celebrating together and enjoying food together. It really is awesome. So the next person I have to introduce is Selena. Celinda. I'm so sorry. Celinda from Save the Kids and for Millions for Prisoners. So give her a round of applause.
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for being out here today. We appreciate you joining us, because this is 4th of July, because it is a lie. Most of our people still are not free today. There are 2.3 million people behind the walls right now. There's another 6 million people that are on parole and probation under constant surveillance, some within their own communities and neighborhoods, most of them on GPS. So it's important that we know that we are not free. When this holiday was enacted, it was enacted by people who still own slaves. And we must recognize that we were never independent, and we still are not free. Our people are still being murdered in the street without without justification, without any kind of justice to follow. Last week we talked about Antoine Rose, who was murdered in Pittsburgh, shot in the back 3 times by law enforcement, 17 years old. That is what happens to our people in the streets, and it's usually without any justice. We're still fighting for justice for Jakeith Lewis, who was murdered in our skate park here. He is Albuquerque's Trayvon Martin. If you don't know his story, visit my table and please review it. We still have not achieved justice for Jakeith. He was shot in the back, 17 years old, by a vigilante here at Albuquerque Skate Park. I'm also asking for people to help us with a man named Saladin. His name is Charles Wilson. He's in Cibola, DOC, here in New Mexico. He's been incarcerated since 1973. 1973. Most of the people in this park weren't even born yet, as long as he's been incarcerated. He has cancer and he walks with a cane. He's been denied by the parole board 15 times in New Mexico. 15 times, arbitrarily. The way New Mexico's parole board works is they show up on a little TV screen. He doesn't even get to see them in person. It's really important that I get anybody who's available to please write to the parole board. You can go to our page, We Are the Revolution, on YouTube, or Millions for Prisoners on Facebook, and you can hear him tell his own story. And the information, how to write to the parole board, is there as well. But it's really important that we continue to acknowledge how we are still not free. We are still fighting for freedom. And I am an abolitionist. I want us to do away with the loophole that was left in the 13th Amendment intentionally so that we could continue slavery. I'm helping those in Angola right now organize for the prison strike on August 21st. They're suffering extreme conditions right now in Angola. And for those that are not familiar with the Angola prison in Louisiana, it's a former plantation. A former plantation that is now a prison. It's 16,000 acres, and it's still cotton fields, and the men are still required to pick cotton there. If that does not offend you, I don't know what could. This is modern day slavery. It never ended, it only evolved. The issues of Jim Crow law only evolved. That's what it is to be a person who's on probation and parole today. You are a second-class citizen when you were a felon. These things never went away. They have only evolved. Modern day lynchings, that's what we saw on June 19th when they executed Antoine Rose. These are modern day lynchings. Lynchings were intended to instill fear in a community. That's what it did. That's what they do every time they murder one of our people in the streets. So these systems of oppression have never ended. They have only evolved. And it takes all of us collectively to finally fight for the independence and humanity of all people. All people, regardless of skin color, class status. All of us belong, and all of our humanity needs to be recognized. And the work that we do is so that we can someday see a day where it is recognized and that we are all truly free. So I just want to end with the recipe for fairness and justice. And this is what I'm hoping that everybody will exercise in their daily routine. So the recipe for fairness and justice was given to us by Brian Stevenson, who wrote the book called Just Mercy, about the prison system. He talks about doing things that are uncomfortable. Everybody who came here today is doing something that's uncomfortable. And I appreciate you being here. Continue to do things that are uncomfortable every single day in your fights for justice. Stay hopeful, because for many of us, hope is all we have. Those men in Angola right now who are locked down, hope is all they have. So we must stay hopeful, because that's how we will see justice. We must change the narrative. So just like we are doing today, we're changing the narrative of independence in America. We're going to change the narrative of what it means to be behind the walls of the institutions of the prison industrial complex. So we must change the narrative in every sense that oppresses people. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought for the last one. Gosh, I lost my words. I'm sorry. So, if anybody wants to engage with me, I'll be at the table over here. And if you want to learn more about the movements that I'm involved in, join my organizations. I welcome you to please come. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. And so do the men behind the walls and the women behind the walls. Female incarceration is up 640%. They've taken a bunch of our men and now they're after our women. Now they're after our children. So we have to continue this fight. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Celinda and for Save the Kids. It's really hard to hear you guys with the generator going. Can I ask for a little, just give it up for Millions for Prisoners and for Save the Kids. Y'all are awesome. So again, my name is Saru, and I'm here with Black Girls Anarchist Federation, and also with my